Let's start with something you have probably seen more than once in your career. A meeting ends. 10 people spoke. Only one person actually influenced the outcome. There was no title change. They had no formal authority over the room. Yet somehow, their words carried more weight than everyone else combined. Now here is the key question. What made that person different? It was not confidence alone, it was not intelligence, and it definitely was not just experience or seniority. It was how they framed the problem, guided the discussion, and made the decision easier for everyone else in the room. That is the fundamental difference between an employee and an executive. Today, we aren't just talking about public speaking or how to stand on a stage. We are going to break down the specific communication signals that tell upper management you are finally ready for a seat at the table. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, we decode the hidden rules of corporate leadership that nobody tells you about in orientation. And before we dive into the mechanics of executive presence, I have a quick request. If you find value in learning the things your boss isn't teaching you, go ahead and click that subscribe button right now. It really helps us keep bringing you this content, and it ensures you do not miss the strategies that accelerate your career. Most professionals work under a massive misconception. We think that if we work hard, keep our heads down, and produce great results, the promotion will naturally follow. Let's be honest. We have all been there, waiting for someone to notice. But at a certain level, hard work is just the price of admission. It is the baseline. The differentiator, the thing that gets you tapped for leadership, is communication. Specifically, outcome-focused clarity. Executives do not promote the person who works the hardest. They promote the person who makes the business clearly understand where it is going. Today, we are going to look at the 5 specific skills you need to master to move from being a reliable doer to a trusted leader. Let's make this real, because stories help us remember. I want you to imagine 2 managers presenting to a vice president. Let's call them Manager A and Manager B. Manager A walks in with a deck of 35 slides. They have spent all week building this deck. They are sweating the details. They start with the background, then the methodology, then the current status, and finally, on slide 34, they have a recommendation. They are essentially saying to the room, "Look how hard I worked." They are reporting the news. The executive sitting across the table is checking their watch, thinking about their next meeting and wondering, so what? This is painful to watch, but we see it every day. Now, look at Manager B. Manager B walks in with 4 slides. They do not start with the background. They start with the decision that needs to be made. They say, "We have a bottleneck in production. Here are 3 options to fix it. Option 2 creates the most long-term value. I need your approval on the budget to proceed." Do you see the difference? Manager A wanted to prove they knew everything. Manager B wanted to drive a business outcome. Executives love Manager B. Why? Because leadership isn't about knowing more or saying more. It is about deciding well with imperfect information. Every time you present, you are auditioning for your next role. Manager A failed the audition because they wasted time. Manager B passed because they respected the executive's time and mental energy. So, what actually is executive communication? It is not about using big words or being the loudest voice in the room. It comes down to 3 things: precision, judgment, and calm authority. When you are an individual contributor, your value is technical expertise. You are paid to know the details. But as you move up, your value shifts to the quality of your judgment. Can you look at a complex situation and simplify it? Can you anticipate issues before they happen? Think about a pilot during turbulence. They do not get on the intercom and scream, "The wind speed is 80 knots and the left engine is vibrating." That would be terrifying. They say, "Folks, we have a bit of chop. We're going to change altitude to smooth it out." That is executive communication. It is outcome-driven. It creates confidence. Most people present like the panicked pilot, dumping data to show they are aware of the problem. You need to present like the captain, calm, concise, and focused on the solution. That changes the entire game of how you present. This brings us to the first actionable skill, which is outcome-first thinking. Most people start their communication with the activity. They say things like, "I sent the emails, I updated the code," or "I held the meeting." Here is the harsh truth. Executives do not care about the activity. They care about the impact. To speak their language, you must tie everything you do to one of 5 drivers: revenue, cost, risk, reputation, or strategy. For example, instead of saying, "I rewrote the training manual," which is just an activity, you say, "I optimized our onboarding process," which will reduce the time to productivity for new hires by 20%. Do you see the shift? You went from a task doer to a value creator. When you prepare a presentation, ask yourself these questions. What is the risk of inaction? What is the financial impact? If you cannot answer those questions, you are not ready to present to leadership. You need to sound like a business owner, not just an employee. This is exactly where sponsorship becomes relevant. Sponsors back people who understand how the business makes money. Now here is the key question. Are you there to give an update, or are you there to get a decision? Too many aspiring leaders fall into the trap of the status update. They schedule 30 minutes with a director just to tell them what happened last week. This is a waste of high-value time. Leaders drive decisions. If you must give an update, keep it to 3 minutes. Say, "Here is where we are on track, no blockers, done." But ideally, you want to pivot to decision-driven communication. Structure your meetings around what you need from them. Say, "I need your alignment on X so we can proceed with Y." When you position yourself as someone who moves the ball forward, rather than someone who just watches the game, you become impossible to ignore. You are signaling that you can handle responsibility. Let's talk about the visual aspect. I call this the executive slide rule. This is where so many smart people lose the room. They put a spreadsheet on a slide, size 10 font, and then read it to the audience. Let's reset a dangerous myth right now. More data does not equal more proof. It equals more confusion. The rule is simple. 1 idea per slide. And your headline shouldn't be a label like Q3 data. Your headline should be the conclusion you want them to reach. For example, Q3 sales grew 10% due to the new marketing channel. Even if they do not look at the chart, they get the point. Use data only if it changes the decision. If the data is just nice to know, put it in the appendix. Executives want to know that you have done the analysis, not that you can copy-paste Excel into PowerPoint. A short deck shows you have done the heavy lifting of synthesis. That is respect. How do you actually structure the words coming out of your mouth? You need a leadership-ready structure. It starts with a 1-sentence hook. You have about 15 seconds to grab their attention before they check their email. Your hook needs to highlight impact, urgency, or curiosity. Say something like, "We are currently losing $10,000 a week on manual processing, and I have a fix that costs $0." That grabs attention immediately. From there, use the action reason benefit framework. Say, "I recommend we automate this workflow," that is the action, because it eliminates human error, that is the reason, which will save us 20 hours a week and improve client trust, that is the benefit. This is clean. It is logical. It leaves no room for ambiguity. Compare that to rambling about how difficult the manual processing is. The action reason benefit structure signals clarity of thinking. It shows you have thought through the why and the so what. Before we wrap up, watch out for the 5 behaviors that quietly kill leadership chances. Starting with a long agenda instead of the point. Overloaded slides that look like eye charts. Presenting a problem without a clear recommendation. Talking to the screen instead of the people. And finally, presenting data without insight. Avoid these, and you immediately separate yourself from the pack. This brings us to sponsorship. Sponsorship is trust earned in high-stakes moments. When you make an executive's life easier by anticipating risks and speaking honestly, they trust you. They become your advocate when you aren't in the room. That is how promotions happen. Presenting to executives is an audition, every single time. It is your chance to show you can think, decide, and lead. If you want to go deeper, I have put a link in the description to a toolkit that helps you build these decks fast. Check that out if you want to save time and look like a pro. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hype it up, it helps the channel grow. Thanks for watching. And remember, employees who present like executives don't wait for promotions. They become impossible to ignore.